Good to see everyone here, or who I can see. My name is Alison Brown, and I am the coordinator for the Center for Wellness and Wellbeing over here at Santa Monica College. So some of you may know me, but many of you may not know me. Often we do our work in our office behind closed doors usually, or in Zoom rooms nowadays. So today's topic is on mindfulness. And what I was thinking for today, I do have a couple of slides that I want to share with everyone, but I don't want this to be didactic. You've all been sitting and watching Zoom all day long today. So I wanted this more to be an experiential experience for you, because really that's what mindfulness is. It is the experience of mindfulness. It is a practice. So it's kind of like fitness. We could talk a lot about doing physical fitness, but until you get up and start moving your body, it's just talk, right? Same with mindfulness. So we're going to be doing some practices. So I'm going to share my screen. Let me get my PowerPoint up if I can find it on my screen. And for some reason I can't. So y'all getting to see my email for a second. Okay, so let me move my screen up here so I can make it bigger. Okay, so we're going to start with a definition of mindfulness. Many of you may have already watched the 30-minute mindfulness presentation I did as part of the EOT training. That's why I want to make this more experiential than didactics. But if you haven't seen it yet and you're still planning to do that training and you want to learn more about mindfulness, that is more of the didactics. You'll learn more information during that 30 minutes as part of the EOT training on Keaton. All right, so what is mindfulness? It's so popular right now, so many of you are probably familiar with it. But here are two definitions that I particularly like. One is from John Kabat-Zinn, and he writes that mindfulness is the awareness that arises from paying attention in a particular way on purpose. So we're paying attention on purpose. So there's intention in our paying attention, moment by moment. So we're talking about the present moment. So each moment, moment by moment, and non-judgmentally. And that's probably the most challenging part of mindfulness, is that we do have very active and opinionated minds that often you'll notice if you stay quiet for a while, there's a lot of commentary going on upstairs in the mind, and judgments, and we like things, we don't like them, we don't care about them, we're bored, this, that, or the other thing. And sometimes we think, oh, it's just me. It's just me with the busy mind, but it's really all of us. We all have that narrative that kind of feels like it's nonstop. And sometimes it really grabs our attention. So in mindfulness, we're trying to let go of being caught in those thoughts, and again, staying with the present moment, moment by moment. Not saying we shouldn't be judgmental, but just not getting lost in those judgments and thoughts. This next definition I also really like is from Oren J. Sofer, and he writes that mindfulness is being aware of what's happening in the present moment in a balanced and non-reactive way. So again, similar to the non-judgmentally, the non-reactive, right? So we're not constantly getting caught up in the moment and distracted and reacting to this, that, and the other thing, or constantly being on autopilot. We're being aware of what's happening in a more balanced and full way. So it's more full, mindful. And there are both formal and informal ways to practice mindfulness. So I'm going to go through some of these formal and informal ways to practice. So my intention for today is to have this be sort of a mindfulness buffet for you. So we're going to try a few things, and you can sample a few things. And you might like some of them and not like some of them, but it gives you a taste of various ways to practice mindfulness. I'm going to stop my share for the rest of this part. So we've all probably been seated for many hours. I know I've been in my chair for most of the day, probably since 9 a.m. this morning. So I wanted to start our mindfulness practice with something that can be both formal and informal, which is mindful movement. So I'm going to lead you through some movement, and feel free to stay seated. This doesn't have to be done standing, but if you feel like, gosh, I haven't stood up all day, feel free to get up out of your chair and stand up to follow along. But these can absolutely be done seated, standing, either one. And of course, I'm going to guide you through these, but follow them as much or as little as you want to. So if you have any physical discomfort, or for whatever reason, movement is not working for you, don't do it. These are going to be gentle movements, but like I said, we all have different bodies. So really respect your own body and do whatever feels right for you. So, okay, so why don't we get started? So I would say if you're seated, just stay seated in your chair, but kind of make sure your feet are flat on the ground so you're balanced and you feel stable. If you'd like to stand up, go ahead and stand up. And if you are standing, then I would say stand with the feet about hip width apart and the arms hanging down by your side. And just settle for 1 second in whatever position you've chosen. Allowing the body to settle in this position. And we're going to start the movement by matching movement with breath. So we're going to do some arm movements and then we're going to match it with our breath. So taking your arms down by your side, you might want to have the palms facing outward. And as you inhale, raise the arms over the head. So as you inhale, and then as you exhale, turn the palms back down and exhale, moving down. So we're going to do a few of these. Inhale with the arms moving up. Exhale with the arms moving down. Maybe do 5 more of these with your own breath. Making the movement gentle and slow. You can keep the eyes closed or open. And then maybe doing 1 more. Inhale and exhale. And when you finish that last movement and breath, just allowing the body to be still and checking in with the sensations that are present in your body. Are there any new sensations, perhaps, as a result of the movement practice? So for me, I'm feeling more warmth in my shoulders, a little tingling in my arms. So just checking in. I'm a little nervous for presenting, so I'm noticing more movement in my chest as I breathe in and out. So just noticing what's present for you. And then we're going to do another movement, this time just bringing one arm up overhead. So if you like, it could be your left or right arm, either one. And then a very slight arch. So if your right arm's up, then you're arching to the left or vice versa. And very slight, be gentle. And just feeling the stretch down the side of your torso. And then bringing the arm back up and down to the side. And then again, noticing what's present now. Any difference between right and left side as a result of that gentle stretch. So just noticing. And again, eyes can be open, closed, whatever feels right for you. And then bringing the other arm, so whichever arm you did before, do the opposite arm, bring it over the head. And that gentle arch, again, very gentle, feeling that stretch, just stretching as far as you feel a stretch. Don't push it too hard. It should feel pleasant, but if it doesn't, no worries. And then back up, down by the side. And then noticing the sensations in the shoulders and the arms, down the sides of the torso. And we're bringing that mindful awareness to the body's sensations as we move, even as we're still. And now we're going to do some shoulder rolls. So bringing the shoulders up to the ears, bringing them back behind you so you feel the shoulder blades pinching a little bit together, shoulders down, forward, up. So just these gentle shoulder rolls. Again, just noticing the movement. And then doing them in the opposite direction. So shoulders up, forward, down and back. Maybe do 5 or 6 in this direction. And then when you're ready, returning the shoulders to stillness. And again, noticing what's present now. And if the mind wanders at all while you're doing these movement practices, it's not a problem at all. As soon as you notice that the mind has wandered away into thoughts of the future or the past, wherever the mind decides to go, not a problem, just gently escorting the attention back to the body sensations. So that's how we build the mindfulness muscle, even with the mindful movement, right? We notice the mind has wandered, we bring it back to the body sensations, to what's present right now. And then finally, we're going to do one last movement, and that will be neck rolls. So bringing the chin down toward the chest. And again, be real gentle, depending on your neck, just be real gentle with this. Moving the head to the side, so left ear over left shoulder, and very, very slightly back. Don't crunch the neck, bringing the head back very slightly, then down to the other side, and just rolling the head a few times, slowly, gently, really respecting the body, respecting your neck. And then when you're ready, reversing the roll to the other side. And making sure that you're breathing as you're doing this exercise. And then finishing up this movement, once the chin is back down toward the chest, gently bringing the head back up to center. And again, noticing what's present now as a result of that movement, any new sensations. You may feel warmth, tingling, whatever's present. And then we'll finish up this movement series. Once again, just bringing both arms this time overhead and just stretching the arms overhead, making it feel good for you, stretching. And then bringing the arms down. Okay, so that was an example of some movement practice, and this is a great practice to do throughout the day. I know for me, I can get very caught up in working and I realize, wow, I haven't moved my body in 3 hours, right? So it feels really nice to drop out of the head, drop away from the work you're doing, and to really pay some kind attention to the body. Whatever movement feels right to you, just bringing that slow, kind mindfulness to the practice can be really helpful. So the next movement practice I want to do with you is a mindful walking practice. So again, depending on your space right now, where you are, if you want to participate, great. If not, you can again do this seated and just imagine yourself walking. But if you can, get up. And if you have enough room just for 3 to 4 paces in either direction, you really don't need a lot of room to do this practice. So I'm going to stand, and hopefully I won't disappear, but I'll stand to demonstrate. We all know how to walk, but walking mindfully is a little bit different. You do need some instructions, even though most of us know how to walk. So you start out standing, or again, if you're seated, just feeling the feet flat on the ground if you're still in your chair. Otherwise, you're standing, your feet are flat on the ground again, maybe around hip width apart, hands hanging down by your side. And if you'd like, you can close your eyes. Sometimes that helps me to close my eyes just to really allow myself to drop into the sensations of my soles, the feet flat on the ground. But again, you can keep the eyes open. So just noticing the weight of the feet as they rest upon the ground beneath you. Really feeling that solidity of the body, the strength of the legs as they keep you upright. Noticing those sensations in the legs and feet. Feeling the soles of your feet, the heels, the toes, the arch. They rest upon the ground beneath you. And then ever so slightly, lean your weight, the weight of the body, onto your left leg and start to notice how that changes the sensations in your leg. And again, you can do this seated, just shifting the weight over to the left leg and notice the difference between left and right. And then shifting the weight of the body to the right leg and notice that difference. Right, do that a few times, shifting the weight back and forth. We're not walking yet, we're just shifting the weight back and forth. Just to really feel into the sensations in the feet and the ankles, the lower legs. And then returning the body to stillness. So centering the weight on both legs. And now we're going to start the walking practice. Now with mindful walking, we tend to slow down. When we're doing a formal practice of mindful walking, we'll slow the pace of the walking down so that we can really concentrate on the sensations in our legs and feet. If we do it too slow, we might notice we'll lose our balance. If we do it too fast, we notice we might go into autopilot thinking and we lose the sensations or that connection to the sensations in our legs. So we're going to do it at whatever pace feels right to you, but I'm just going to start out pretty slow, just as we demonstrate. So shifting the weight onto one leg, so maybe on your left leg, and start to lift your right foot off the ground. So you're starting to lift the leg and then moving it forward as if you're taking a step forward and then shifting your weight onto that right leg. And you'll notice as you do that the left heel starts to leave the ground and is already in preparation to do the step forward. So we're going to lift that left foot off the ground, move it forward, place it. And as we do this, we're really focusing on the sensations of our body walking. So I'm going to have you do this on your own for about 2 minutes. I'll time it. So just take maybe 3 paces in each direction. And if you notice that your mind really starts to wander a lot as you're doing it, it's not a problem at all. It can happen. This is an activity we tend to do on autopilot. So our mind, it's kind of a clue for our mind that we should just start going elsewhere. So that's okay. Once you notice, that is the mindfulness practice, is noticing that the mind has wandered away and then bringing it back to the present moment. So it can help to do a noting practice as you do this. So as you're lifting the foot, you could go lift, move, place, lift, move, place. So that can help too, to have a light noting. So go ahead and do that on your own. I'm going to set my timer for 2 minutes, maybe 3 paces one direction, stop, turn, 3 paces in the other direction. So I'm going to set my timer now for 2 minutes, and I'll be quiet as you do this practice. And if you are seated and not walking, you can imagine yourself walking or just gently shifting the weight of your legs from side to side. All right, so wherever you are, coming to stillness, you like to stay in that still standing position or seated just for a few moments, checking in with the body. If you like, you can close your eyes, taking a few breaths. And then if you were standing and you want to return to your seat, slowly returning to your seat. And walking meditation, as I said, can be both formal and informal. Oh, Muriel, you said your bones were popping. I think that's really normal. I notice that too when I do walking meditation. I'm like, I have the loudest knees in the world because I'm never really noticing, but my knees pop all the time and they become very loud when I'm doing walking meditation. And that's really because we're paying attention. They're probably popping all day long and we're just not paying attention. But anyway, it's an interesting practice, but this is a great practice to do walking from room to room, if you can remember to do it, right? Or if you are someone who enjoys doing seated meditation, or you've tried seated meditation and it's particularly difficult to do, there might be a lot of restlessness in the body or busyness in the mind. Walking meditation or even the mindful movement can be a really nice practice if there's a lot of energy in the body. So again, that can be done either formally or informally. So I wanted to share a couple more informal practices with you before I move on to a more formal seated meditation. So I'm going to share my screen again. Okay. Here we go. Move to the next slide. Oh, for some reason, my thing there we go. So this practice, I did talk about in my 30-minute EOT workshop, but I wanted to bring it up again in case you didn't see that workshop, or these are just really nice ones to do, especially if you're feeling a bit overwhelmed, or you just really like are very busy mind, a lot of worrying or things like that, and you just want to ground yourself. So the 5-finger breathing is a really nice practice to do because it really takes in a lot of your senses as you're doing it. So you get the sense of seeing your hand, of feeling your hand, and counting the breaths. So we can all do this together. So taking one of your hands, either one is fine, and just placing it somewhere in front of you. I'm going to put my hand up near my face, so you don't have to do that, but just somewhere where you see the palm of your hand. And then taking the finger of what do you call this? Index finger, sorry, of your other hand, and press it against, just lightly against your pinky, at the lower part of your pinky. And the practice is to inhale as you move your finger up the pinky, and then exhale as you bring the finger down. Inhale on the way up of your ring finger. And I'm going to let you do this with your own breath. So it's up as you inhale, down as you exhale. And I like to look at my hand as I'm doing this because I get sight and touch in this exercise, but you can close your eyes. And when you get to the outside of your thumb, then you're just going to start in the other direction. So up, down, and just in time with your own breath. And then I'm going to let you do it one more time on your own without me talking. Okay. So as you're finishing that one up, I really like this exercise because you could do it anywhere. If you're sitting in a meeting, especially now that we're on Zoom and you're just feeling whatever, if there's a strong feeling there, any feeling of overwhelm, this is a really nice calming, grounding exercise you can do. You don't have to look at your hand. You can just have your hand in your lap as you're doing it. And it's a really good one to do with kids as well. The next one is called the 5-4-3-2-1 technique, another one to really help you out in stressful moments, to get you out of that narrative in your head. And you're just asking yourself in that moment to bring your senses into play. So you're going to ask yourself, what are 5 things that I can see? So you look around the room and you find 5 things that you can see. So you might see your clock, or you might see your computer or your phone. Just listing 5 things in your mind. Then 4 things that you can feel. So that could be your feet on the ground. You can feel the air against your skin, the chair beneath your legs. So noticing those 4 things that you can feel. 3 things that you can hear. So you look out for sounds. We've done our sight, our touch, now hearing. So 3 things that you can hear. So right now you might hear my voice, you might hear some noises outside, or maybe there's some white noise from electricity in your home. What are 2 things that you can smell? These next are a little bit harder to capture sometimes, because unless there is a particularly strong smell, we tend to get pretty what would be the word? We tend to not really notice smell unless it's strong, but you can smell if there's a particular smell on your hand or on your shirt. And then one thing that you can taste. So maybe just tasting what your mouth tastes like in this moment, or if you just ate something, you might taste the remnants of the food that you just ate. So those are great techniques for just grounding in the moment, because they're quick. You can do them really quickly. And then the next one, I just came across this. I knew the stop technique. Let me move my thing so I can read it. It's from, I pulled this from this new book that just came out in June called Self-Compassion for Educators, Mindful Practices to Awaken Your Well-Being and Grow Resilience by Lisa Baylis. This book is geared more toward K through 12 educators, but I still felt like these practices anyone can do these because they're really helpful. And she talks, and these are acronyms. Acronyms are always nice mnemonics, ways to remember the steps. So one of the easiest ways to calm and recenter yourself amid a stressful situation is to simply stop and slow down. And so the STOP acronym helps you remember to incorporate a brief mindfulness practice throughout the day, while the SLOW acronym is a great reminder to arrive gently into your body. And both just take a few seconds. So we can try each of these now. I'll walk you through it. So S for stop, so just stop what you're doing. T is for take a few breaths. So bring your attention to your breathing. And that immediately drops you into your body. The O is to observe your emotions, thoughts, and body sensations. So just noticing what is present right now. You don't have to think too much about it or analyze it, but just notice what's present. Maybe there were thoughts running through your mind, or there might be body sensations you can feel, there might be emotions present. So quickly observing what's there. And then the P is just to proceed what you're doing with what you were doing. So again, this is something that could be done in a few moments, right? It gives you that moment to pause, especially if you're feeling stressed. When we are stressed, we tend to go into reactivity mode, autopilot mode. This gives us a little break from that, and dropping into our body is a great way to get out of our head. And then the SLOW is, I love this one because even just reading it out loud makes me feel good. The S is for soften your jaw, your eyes, and your face. So imagining your jaw, your eyes, your face, all softening. And then the L is for lower your shoulders. So often we have our shoulders up, tense by our ears, just lowering, that's a fraction of an inch. The O is for opening your breath to your chest and belly, and then similar to the T, really opening your awareness to your breath. And then wiggle your toes and feel your feet on the ground. I love to bring my attention to my feet on the ground when I'm lost in my head. It's the farthest from my head, so it brings me out of my head and into my body. And you can use both of these techniques before or after entering your classroom or a meeting, before having a challenging conversation or any other stressful situation, because it gives you that space and attention to be mindful and to self-regulate. Right? It's hard to self-regulate if we're on autopilot. And then finally, I'm going to stop the share here. Just want to see if there's any questions. So I'll address some of these questions in a second. The next practice that I want to do with you is more of a formal practice. So we're going to do a seated practice, a seated meditation. And I want to introduce it by talking about the technique that's often used in meditation practices called using an anchor. The nature of our mind is to wander. So if you feel like, oh, every time I sit down to meditate, my mind is so busy, so I can't meditate. I want to clear up that by saying all of our minds do it. You don't have to clear your mind to meditate. You don't have to empty your mind of thoughts. It's not the point of meditation. But we don't get caught up in our thoughts, right? And we do that by bringing in what we call an anchor. So just as a boat, if you are on a boat and you use an anchor, The anchor helps to steady the boat no matter how choppy the water is, right? So the boat's not going to get lost and pushed around by the waves. An anchor is going to keep the boat steady, even if there's still a little bit of movement, right? Keeps it steady. So we often want to choose an anchor that is present, right? That is here in the present moment. So often we will use body sensations like the breath as an anchor. So we'll start to feel into the sensations of the breath. Every time we notice our mind has wandered away, we bring our attention back to the sensations of the breath. The breath doesn't work for everyone as a neutral or pleasant anchor, so you don't have to use it. So you can use other anchors as well. And sometimes what people will use as an anchor is other body sensations, such as like sensations of their feet on the ground or hands in their lap. People will use sounds, like you probably heard of those singing bowls or bells that people might use for an anchor for a sound meditation. You can also use visual images as an anchor, and sometimes people will use phrases. So you've probably heard of mantra meditation. Usually sometimes we'll use a mantra as a phrase, and that's a way, or a phrase like peace or calm, or in loving kindness meditation, you'll use these well wishes toward yourself or others, like may I be well, may I be happy. And those are the anchors for the attention. So we're going to do, I'm going to guide you through a mindful meditation practice where I'm going to move you through using the feet, then the hands, and the breath as the anchor. So I want to say, as I'm doing this meditation with you, again, as I said earlier in the practice, do as much or as little as you feel comfortable doing. You can keep your eyes open or closed. Either way is fine. You don't have to, if it feels like, oh, this is just unbearable, I hate it, just stop doing it. We're probably only going to be doing it for 10 minutes or so. So, but if that feels like an hour and a half for you, just stop. This is not supposed to be torture. It's a way of just practicing. And sometimes when people try to meditate, it's almost like when people like start going to the gym and they're like, I'm going to go to the gym every day. I'm going to go for an hour and I'm going to do it. And then it's like unbearable, right? Because it just feels awful. So meditation is similar, right? We want to start where we're at and what feels just a little bit challenging, but not too challenging. So really listen to your own wisdom within you as I guide you through this practice. So finding a position that feels fairly comfortable and supportive. So if you are seated, again, having both feet flat on the ground, maybe having your hands in your lap or by your side. It's nice to have a relaxed but upright position. If we start to slouch too much, it makes us sleepy. It's harder to breathe. So again, maybe having something supporting your back behind you. You can do this standing, you can do this lying down. If you are going to lie down, if you're really sleepy, you might fall asleep. So I don't recommend lying down if you think you'll fall asleep, but if you fall asleep, that's fine too. But just finding a posture that feels supportive and comfortable. And taking a few moments to situate yourself. And then once you've found your posture, if you'd like, you can go ahead and close your eyes if that feels comfortable for you. If not, you can simply lower the gaze toward the ground, just having a soft gaze somewhere in front of you. And I like to start my meditation practices by taking a few deep, settling breaths. So being very gentle effort as you deepen the inhale and lengthen the exhale through the mouth. You can even sigh out with the exhale. So just taking a few conscious, settling breaths. It's a nice way to transition into a meditation practice, into this inward focus. And you can even imagine with each exhale that you're just letting go of whatever came before this moment. And then once you've taken 2, 3, 4, or however many of these deeper conscious breaths as you need, then allowing the breath to return to its natural rhythm, allowing the breath to be natural, spontaneous, letting the body breathe itself. And then start to feel into all the contact points where the body is being supported by the surface beneath you, behind you. You might notice your feet resting upon the ground, perhaps the back of your thighs and your hips on the chair or couch. If your back is leaning up against something, noticing that. And even noticing the placement of your hands, if they're resting upon your lap or by your side or on each other. Allowing yourself to feel fully supported and surrendering to gravity. And feeling that stability of being supported by the ground, the earth below you. And we're going to start this practice by using the sensations of our feet on the ground as an anchor. So sensing into the feet, dropping your full awareness into the feet, feeling the pressure, the feet where they touched another surface, might be the inside of your shoes or the ground. There might be warmth or coolness, tingling. I'm not forcing anything, just sensing what's already present in the feet. And of course, the mind is going to wander away. It's just what the mind does. It's the nature of mind. So once you notice that the mind has wandered away from the feet on the ground, gently, with kindness and patience, bring the attention back. And this can happen numerous times. It's not a problem. It's part of the practice. It's actually once we notice that the mind has wandered, that is where the mindfulness occurs. So when we notice, we choose to bring the attention back and we strengthen the mindfulness muscle. So sensing into the feet. And then moving the attention up the legs and into the hands, wherever the hands are placed. Noticing, sensing, feeling the hands from the inside out. And sometimes it's hard to capture or feel these sensations strongly. So maybe just noticing those contact points where the hands are resting upon the lap or each other, and checking in with those areas where there's pressure or feeling of contact. Not over efforting, seeing if you can rest in this awareness, using it as the anchor. The anchor into the present moment. And when the mind wanders away, noticing that and escorting the mind back. Thinking of our mind as a puppy or a small child whose nature is to wander away. Nothing wrong with that. No reason to judge it. It's the nature of the mind. We're simply training the mind to be present for longer periods of time. So sensing into the hands. You might even notice if there's gripping in the hand and seeing if you can soften the hands a bit, just with your kind attention. And then start to become aware of the body breathing. So noticing where you feel the breath most easily in the body. So it might be the air moving through the nostrils. It might be the air moving down the back of the throat. It might be the rise and fall of the chest or belly. Wherever you're feeling the breath most easily, resting your attention there in the sensations of the breath, as if you're riding the waves of the breath as the breath moves in and out of the body. Breathing in, know that you're breathing in. Breathing out, know that you're breathing out. And again, if the breath does not feel like a neutral or pleasant anchor, feel free to return your attention to the feet or to the hands. Bringing a sense of gentleness and kindness to the practice. And if you are staying with the breath, then see if you can stay with the breath from the very beginning of an inhale as it rises toward the crest to become the exhale, and staying with the exhale all the way until it tapers. You might even notice there's just a brief moment of stillness between each breath. And then ever so slightly, as we did in the beginning of the practice, starting to deepen the breath, just ever so gently, just slightly deepening the inhale and lengthening the exhale. And feeling into all those contact points once again, where the body is being supported by the surface below and behind you. So really getting a sense of the solidity, the weight of the body being supported. And then widening your awareness even more to include not only the entire body in its current position, but sounds both inside and outside of the room. Almost as if the awareness is like a camera lens that you're widening and widening. And then gently introducing maybe some small movement into the body by wiggling fingers and toes. And then if the eyes have been closed, gently blinking the eyes open. And as we did earlier, if you'd like to introduce some movement into the body, sometimes it's nice to just check in and intuitively what your own body needs in the moment. Oh, all the stretching. It's been a lot of sitting for today. All right, everyone. I think we're scheduled to go till 2:55, so that would leave us about 5 more minutes. So I wanted to use this time if anyone has any questions about their experience in the practice today. I know someone brought up, I think there was a question earlier in the chat about music. You can absolutely use music as part of your practice, especially if you're doing sound as your anchor, some gentle. If it's a song that you're going to start singing along to, maybe not, but maybe some melody or something that can be very gentle and maybe some repetitive quality to it is a nice one for sound meditation if you are using music. Any other questions? Rain, thank you, Rain. Rain is a good one. So, if you go there's all these apps right now. And on these apps like Calm, and there's other apps that use sort of soundscapes, they'll use natural sounds like that is either white noise or rain or waves, something like that. That's also really nice to calm the nervous system if that works for you. It's interesting. It doesn't calm my nervous system for whatever reason. I get too caught up in the sounds, but I'm very sensitive to sound. But I know for other people that can be very calming and pleasant to have those sounds in the background as an anchor. So again, playing around with what works for you. There's so many apps right now that, and a lot of them are free. So I would play around if you're curious. And it's nice sometimes. I really like Insight Timer. They have a timer on it where you can just use bells. And I like to do silent meditation, and that can be a nice challenge if you're up for it, where you just set it for a few minutes and you meditate silently, because it really shows you where your mind is in that moment. But sometimes we need more of the scaffolding of a guided meditation. So just, what you need in that moment is really the best. Whatever will get you to do it is the best way to do it. All right, let's see, I'm going to just check oh yeah, Calm app is free for Kaiser members. So if you have Kaiser, yes, please go there. And I think I have some on our website. I have a list of some meditation apps that I really like. All right. Well, you know what? I think I'm gonna close it up then. So I want to thank you all. You know where to reach me. So if you ever have any questions for me, we all work together. So just send me an email. I'll probably start advertising weekly drop-in meditation. I haven't figured out what day or time to do it yet, but I'll send out an email for that one. And I wish you all well. And especially really do take care of yourself, right? Here we go, another academic year. So really take care of yourself and be good to yourself. So thanks, everybody. I guess I'll stop the recording.
Thanks, Alison.
You're welcome.